He falls into hallucinations, devoid of hope, isolated, bordering on insanity. He is driven to committing what he considers to be the ultimate human sin.
Aggregate what they can do with the PST effects,
There's been a lot going on, but it is definitely past time for me to show you more books from the Dead Man's Book collection, specifically the collection of Gary Goodwin, which was my latest collection. Gary was a veteran. He was an avid book reader. His interests in reading included history, war, politics, theology, travel. And in the midst of all of those great reading interests, he did have a few fiction reads. The majority of the books that he picked up were nonfiction reads, but he did have a few fiction reads. So I feel it is high time for me to dive back into his collection. And so I pulled out a bunch of fiction reads and I want to show them to you. So without further ado, The Fires on the Plain by Shoshiuka. I love the simplicity of Japanese novels. It's another Japanese novel that I'll talk about a little bit later. It's one of my most recent books that I picked up. Fires on the Plain. His name is Tamura, a private in the Japanese army during the last stages of World War II. He is separated from his forces and far behind enemy lines. His struggle to maintain his dignity amid the awesome terrors and exigencies of war is the basis for this great modern Japanese novel. Tamura hears of a port still in the hands of his own troops and he attempts to walk to safety. One by one, this sensitive and intelligent man's ties to humanity are severed. He falls into hallucinations, devoid of hope, isolated, bordering on insanity. He is driven to committing what he considers to be the ultimate human sin. Makes you wonder what this is, but in times of desperation, I have an idea what I think the ultimate human sin is, and it's not murder. So I'm definitely interested in this, and I'm realizing that Japanese authors are quite extraordinary and quite dramatic. So I definitely plan on reading that. Okay, the next book I found in this collection was The Blind Owl, a novel from Persia by Sadij Hidie. And I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's fine. It's called The Blind Owl. This is a little bit disorienting. There are sores which slowly erode the mind like a canker, writes the narrator of this major novel in Persia. My one fear is that tomorrow I may die without having come to know myself. This dual obsession to know oneself and to record this memory of madness and thus to exercise it forms the basis of this astonishing novel in the Middle East. It is a tale of an insane young man who meets a beautiful girl whom he recognizes as the incarnation of his dreams. Romance, however, soon turns into horror, which the narrator chronicles faithfully, even though it drives on further and further into madness. And this is a novel by Pearl S. Buck called The Good Earth. And it was originally published in 1931. This printing is the 78th printing, and it's 1975. Oh no, this pocketbook, this one is 1975. An all-time classic beloved by millions, The Good Earth tells the story of the rise of the House of Wang, the family of the Chinese peasant Wang Long, who glorified in the soil he worked. He held it above his family and above his gods, and it sustained him. He held it against the ravages of nature and bandit tribes, and he prospered. He planted the roots of a powerful dynasty, one of the wives and concubines and many sons who would betray him. Wow. It looks like it's part of a trilogy, but I can't read the other books because the cover is too jacked up. So let's see if I can figure out the other books in this trilogy. I'm sure that if I No, this was the first, so the first would not list the other books in the trilogy. Why would it? Okay. This one says Joshua. It's by Rogers McVeigh and Thomas B. Colstain. The Walls of Jericho. It's another old book. It's kind of falling apart. Popular Library Edition, 1943. Okay, this book's 1943. The Walls of Jericho. It had once been a proud and mighty city. Now its people had grown degenerate, sunk in idolatry, secure behind the city walls. But among them dwelt a woman, a harlot Rahab, who held the key to their destruction. Poised outside the city was a tribe of Israel. Lean and hungry after 40 years in the crucible of the desert, they turned toward their leader, the man who led them across the river Jordan, the man whose skill and daring had worked miracles, the man whose name was Joshua. Next book in this collection was Poverty on a Small Planet by Edward Rogers. It's a Christian looks at living standards. This book actually said 5 for $1. This collection had a lot of books on religion. I mean a lot. Old books too. This is Macmillan. This is Macmillan. Paperback edition. Paperback edition 1965. Paperback edition 1965. Okay. Poverty on a Small Planet serves a real purpose in stating clearly and convincingly the opportunities that lies before the world to end poverty. Indeed. Next book is Doctors from Lhasa by Hapsang Rampa. Get in tight on that one. Okay, plot twist. On the inside, it says Patty Dahl, Psychology 2. See if you guys can get in on that. I was born markedly clairvoyant, and I would see people with their aura around them as if they were wreathed in flames of fluctuating colors. From their auras I could divine their thoughts, what ailed them, what their hopes and fears were. These are the words of a man whose body was so possessed by the spirit of the Tibetan Lama from the Patala monastery in Lhasa that he became, in fact, the Lama himself. He suffered a long and arduous imprisonment, survived degradation, starvation, and soul-destroying tortures inflicted by the Japanese during World War II. And here he tells of the powers and knowledge which enabled him to do so. Okay, so this is the thing. I finished this video completely. I start editing it, and there were 2 books that the audio just dropped. And I'm so pissed off about it. But let me know how good of a recreation I'm doing, because it was daytime and it's nighttime now. If you look over here, this should be really light. Instead, it's like super dark. So I'm going to just go with it. Okay, so the next book was The Legacy of Holmes and Brandeis. It was a study of the influence of ideas. These are 2 Supreme Court judges, if I remember correctly. Okay. For many years, Holmes and Brandeis joined forces in the Supreme Court to uphold basic democratic rights. Their famous opinions brought about a decisive change in American thought and practices, and they are today regarded as principal molders of the liberal faith. Okay. The next was a portable medieval reader, the astonishing world of the Middle Ages brought to life for the modern reader through a rich variety of writings from 4 centuries. Okay. This volume aims to hold up a mirror in which we may see something of the pageant that was the medieval world as the world saw itself. The period covering is 1050 to 1500, a geographical range, that of Latin Christianity, with extensions into the Near East and Far East, representing the most vivid and direct expressions of medieval experience and thought in poetry and prose. There are selections, many newly translated from history and travel, theology, science, education, and imaginative literature. Portraits of princes are summoned upon, along with merchants, peasants, students, and monks. And I hope that you guys are enjoying this collection. Okay, this is by Elizabeth Longford. This is Queen Victoria, Born to Succeed. Looked like she just jumped off the $10 bill. No offense to anyone. This is the widely acclaimed biography that captures the life and times of the English queen who reigned for 62 years and gave her name to an age. Okay. Ooh. As soon as I open it up, I see mold on the pages. Okay. Maybe I should have a mask on when I do this. This is the first perennial library edition, so this was 1974. So it actually shows it looks like it's just chronicling her life. You know, head of all the family, 1865. Yeah, so that was that. And I think this is like, I had flipped through it and there were some, where did they go? Okay, there were quite a few illustrations in here. There were, okay, Queen Victoria in state robes in 1859, painted by Winterhalter. Check this out. Check it out. It just reminds me of something. I bought a new camera, and the reason this video is so late is because I bought a new camera, the Sony ZVE 10. I mean, I bought the camera. It was not on sale. I bought a 11mm lens to go with it. Since it is a 4K camera, it required a considerable amount of storage capacity, so I bought a new card to go with it as well. Total bill ended up being an additional battery. It that camera charges through the camera, so you had to literally plug up your camera to charge it. Of course, if your camera is charging your battery, you're not operating. And of course, you can get the little doohickey that allows you to record. But anyway, I took it home. This is not, I'm not shooting on it. This is my trusty Canon M50 that I have shot on for years, and I continue to appreciate Canon because I've gotten really good at, you know, just how to use and how to set cameras and all these things. I didn't like the functionality. I didn't like anything about that camera, and I didn't like the picture. If you go back and look at my very last video, it was shot with that, and it wasn't a question of white balance. It wasn't a question of user error. It was just, I just didn't appreciate the picture. It just didn't work for me like this. I love this. This kind of works for me. Anyway, back to the books. Okay, so we'll do I'll do one more, and then I'll show you what I picked up from Barnes and Nobles, and show you something really something that Barnes and Nobles did that was actually pretty crappy. They didn't do it on purpose, but okay. Mallory's Le Morte d'Arthur, King Arthur and the Legends of the Round Table. This is a new rendition by Keith Baines. So we can see that the Mr. Gooden's taste was really, wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, anyway, this was 1962, July, says first Mentor printing. Okay, but anyway, all of that mess. The rousing epic of King Arthur and his court has had a lasting effect on the traditions of literature of the traditions and literature of English-speaking peoples. These well-known tales represent the bridge between pagan and Christian, Druid and Dominus. Arthur emerges at the end of the Roman Empire and the beginning of a British nation. Okay, so that's it for this collection, but this is what I picked up from Barnes & Noble. I got coffee stain on it already. Okay, it's just a little splatter. Okay. I was in Barnes & Noble, and this is a pro tip. If you go to the mall and the bookstore is in the mall, always park in front of the bookstore. Don't go in through the main entrance and then make your way to the bookstore. Go in through the bookstore and then go into the mall. That way you can go into the bookstore twice. You know how you see something, you're like, man, I really want this book. I really want this book. And you don't get it. Then you leave and you go home and you're like, man, I should have bought that book. This is why. You go in, you see it, you say, this looks interesting. Maybe I should pick it up. It's not on sale, maybe not. And you put it back down. And you go through the mall, you go through and you realize, hey, I didn't buy anything. And then on your way out, you get to go back and it gives you a second option to purchase a book. So that's just a pro tip from a professional book buyer, so to speak. Okay, so The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea by Yukio Mishima. And you see I'm doing like this because I don't have my glasses on. Yukio Mishima. Okay, so I was in Borders and I saw this book. There's a man right there, right? You guys, there was a sticker covering the most important part of this novel. Now, if you take this off, the only thing you have to... Now, this is not necessarily an appealing cover without the picture of the man or boy. It was a boy. Looks like he's drowning in a sea of red, right? So you have to go off of what's on the back of the book. This is a testament to why the back of these books are so important. 13-year-old Noboru is a member of a gang of highly philosophical teenage boys who reject the tenets of the adult world. To them, adult life is illusory, hypocritical, and sentimental. When Noboru's widowed mother is romanced by Ryuji, a sailor, Noboru is thrilled. He idolizes this rugged man of the sea as a hero. But his admiration soon turns to hatred as Ryuji forsakes his life on board the ship for marriage. Rejecting everything Noboru holds sacred, upset and appalled, he and his friends respond to this apparent betrayal with a terrible ferocity. Now, was enough. Reading that was enough to interest me and make me want to pick up this book, right? But just imagine if I had walked past the book and actually saw this. For those who are really, really entranced by covers, this is the most important part of this book, in my opinion, because this kind of tells you something about this book without telling you something about this. See you next time.
aggregate what they can do with the PS team effects, and